Good afternoon everyone, this is Chrissy. Welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me. In my last video I shared some little triangular pouches or pyramid pouches. I'm not really sure what these are called, but I had a few people ask me about how they were made. Well, first off I have to say that the idea is not mine. I did find these on YouTube, but the ones that were shown were made with a fabric, a lining and an inner, and I didn't want the hassle of that. So I just wanted to make mine out of like a quilting fabric and not worry about the lining. So as I say, they're not my idea, but I have adapted it to suit the way that I want to do it. And I found it worked for me, and my husband drew up templates for me on a graphics program, and I printed them out in 3 sizes, which I have here. And at the end of the video I'll put these on the screen, and if you're interested in the sizes, maybe you could take a screenshot of them. The one we're going to make is the big one, the 18 centimeter one, which is this one here. These are just like this. I've got some little things in them, and then you pull up the cord. This one's got, what's it got? Just some thread in there. And then this one's got some suffix. No, it hasn't. It's got those little clips in there. Okay, so these are some other ones that I made. This was the first one I tried. I showed you this in my last video, that I'd blanket stitched, and I didn't like the way that looked, so that was a prototype. And this was just another one I was playing around with, and this is the one I showed you that I'd done some embroidery on. So put these all up here, and this is the, to stop confusion, I get confused quite easily, so I've called this bit, this is the one we're making, I've called this piece here the hood, just so I didn't get confused, and I've called this bit here that you fold the flap, so that because it can get quite confusing actually when you've excuse me, when you're working with it. So first of all, what we have to do first of all is fold the flap over. So this was the flap, this was the hood, and I'm just going to put a clip in that. Sorry, start again. That way, because we're sewing this seam here. Sewing it inside out. So what I sewed mine with was just this type of thread. Oh, the sun has come out again. It's nearly behind the trees. Maybe I should just stop for a moment until it disappears, because I think that's going to be quite annoying. So I'll see you shortly when the sun has gone behind the trees. While the sun has been going behind the tree, I've stitched this seam, and I've just done a little, I think I showed you that I use this thread, because it's quite strong, and I've just done a little overcast stitch down there, and when that's folded in the other way, it just sort of gets buried in the quilting. I pull the threads quite tight so that it makes a nice neat stitch. What you do then is you bring that seam to the center. This was the flap, this is the hood, and bring the seam to the center there. Put a clip in that. This is the big one that we're working on. So this is this will be like this. So we now need to sew up the bottom, but we don't sew it all the way across. We leave a small space on this side here, to put the cord in. So I'll do that, leaving a, I don't know, a quarter of an inch or thereabouts, and I'll come back. I've now sewn this edge here, the bottom edge, leaving a little gap at the top here, just enough to get my cord through it. So that's done. The next thing we need to do is close up this end of the hood here, and we also need to leave a small gap on this end, on the bottom of that here, to put the cord through. So I'll just sew down here, leaving a small gap at the end. I've stitched that now, leaving a little gap here for the cord, and those are all the seams that we need to make. So we've got this. I'm going to turn it inside out, the right way around. If you need to, you can poke the corners. So that's where we're at the moment. Now the next thing to do is what I've done on mine is sewing around the flap and the hood with a blanket stitch. I'm just going to go around this now with a blanket stitch. And I know I've got a long thread, but I do like to try and get around it with just one thread, which means that you have to start with quite a long thread. I hope this will be long enough. And did I make it? Only just. It's only long enough by a smidge. Here we've got the blanket stitch all around. So the next thing now is to put the threads, the cord through. And I have made a cord here already. This is just a chain, crochet chain. You can use a twisted thread or a ready-made cord or whatever, but I'm just using this today. And I use my crochet hook, and what we have to do first is next step can get a little bit confusing. I had to have a few goes at it to begin with, but what we want to do is pull that, put the cord in there and pull it through, and I find the crochet hook good for this. You don't really want to pull the the seam out if you can help it. Just pull the thread through. So we've got that, and we have to fasten that off. Take these out with a bead inside. So I find these wooden beads are good, and that's got to go on here. So I use my needle with the wide eye in it to thread the wool through, and just it pulls through easily. So I need to make a knot on the end of that so that the bead won't come out. Big enough knot to hold the bead. So I find I've got to go over it 2 or 3 times, close as possible to the end that you can get. Try a knot on top of the knot that you've already got there. I think that's going to be alright. Now pull that through, so that's like that so far. We've got sorry, I'm just getting a bit confused here with this. There we go. So we've got that coming out there, here, same as that. And then we've got to take that over top of the hood, like that, and in through the hole that we left here. So put that there, the crochet hook in, and pull it through. Have I got it? This is a little bit fiddly. No, I haven't got it. Put that through again. Sorry, I may not have made my hole big enough there. So there we are, I've got that through. Had a bit of a hassle there. Then you put another bead. There's my other beads there. You need 3 beads. So just put another one here. Like that. So that's on the outside. Here, and then that has to go back through the hole again. So I've got to get this to go into the inside. I'm going to poke my crochet hook out there. I think I've made my hole a little bit too tight, so don't do that. Poke that through there. I am having a bit of difficulty with this. No. There. Be careful not to get it through your cord. So we want to pull that back through. This is probably the most fiddly bit of the whole thing. I haven't got it. It's not behaving how you would want it to when you're trying to show someone how to do something. However, it's the reality of it. Here we go. Got it. That was a bit of a hassle, but it's through. And now we need to put another bead on here, our last bead. There we are. And knot that. Same way we did the other one. I think 2 knots is probably enough. If you want to be really safe, do 3, depending on the whole of your bead, tails off. And that one. Pull that. And then pull the cord. And you need to sort of give it a little bit of a shape. And there it is. There it is. And I made a little flower to go on here just for an embellishment. So I'll sew that on. And there's our finished little pyramid. Cute. I hope that was helpful for you. As I say, there are lots of, I think there's quite a few videos on how to make them, but I like things simple, and I just wanted to use the quilted fabric and not have to be worried about the lining and etc., and also to sew it by hand and not on machine. And so it works for me. I hope it works for you. Here are the templates for you if you wish to take a screenshot. My apologies for the times that I drifted off screen. I do find these things a little difficult to do, but I hope that you managed to get enough from it that you know, if you choose to make one, that you could get the drift of what I was doing. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye now.